Hello, world. This is Rex Arthur, and welcome to the Rex Arthur Show. And today we want to talk about what I get my news, most of my perspectives from the social media, and sometimes my own thoughts. And today it's going to be from social media. A friend of ours got married, and people were wondering, now my other friend said he was wondering how is it that a gay person can marry heterosexually? And to me, I was like, yeah, it can happen. And we already have a video talking about what you call the mixed orientation marriage. So we just want to touch on it a bit. And first of all, the gay marriage movement has succeeded in the world. Yes, it has. What I mean by succeeding is the moment you have one country, all it is one country, you don't even need 20, just one country that allows gay marriage. The moment you've done that, the planet has accepted it. It's done. And that's what has happened in the world. Of course, many other countries haven't accepted gay marriage, but they will in the long run. Yes, they will in the long run. But so it has happened in most of the Western countries in the world. And of course, it hasn't happened in very non-Western countries, simply because those countries are different in structure. Yes, so they are headed, all the countries in the world that are non-Western, they use Western systems, but they have not yet matured to that point. But there are some which have, there are some which have. And that's why you find South Africa is not a Western country, but it's westernized in its operational things. And so that's why it's easy to have gay marriage in South Africa, unlike a country like maybe Chad. Though surprisingly, you'll find the poor countries in Africa, they don't even criminalize homosexuality like the other countries which could be well off, but they do criminalize homosexuality. So the Western world has already gone to gay marriage, from the usual heterosexual marriage, now to gay marriage, and now it's the mixed orientation marriage that happened to our friend. And you can marry, and I was telling my friends that you can marry a lesbian can marry a straight person, because the straight person whom you marry is an ally, is someone who is saying, yes, I accept you are like this, and I can marry you. And of course, then someone is saying, the question is that if a lesbian can marry a straight person, is she a lesbian? Because a lesbian means a lady who is attracted to another lady. So how is it that she is marrying a straight person? Well, it all boils down to what you define as marriage. Is marriage about sex? No, it's not. Sometimes marriage is not about sex. You can marry. You see, it all depends on how you define marriage. And definitions differ, And as I said in another video, the best dictionary in a country is the law of the country. That is the best dictionary. It is not, religious books. The reason why you don't use religious books to define marriage is because they are subjective. Western Christianity is so different from African Christianity when it comes to marriage, I mean, Zuma is married to more than 2 women, has more than 2 women, and he's a pastor. Yes, He's an African. He belongs to the I forget the name of the church, but it's an African Christian denomination. It's not Western. So when a Western Christian hears that, they would say Zuma is doing something wrong because marriage is between one man and one woman. But Zuma will come and say, no, Abraham had many wives, David had many wives, and David was loved by God. Solomon had many wives, and God even blessed him. God didn't even strike Solomon dead for marrying all those women. So that's what happened in Africa. African Christianity allows you to marry. That marriage can be between more than one person. Can be amongst more than one person. So it would be wrong to define marriage as per religion, as per one religion, because religion is subjective. You can even say, like gay marriage, you can even religionize it. Yes. So are you going to say that now you'll use a religion like Islam or Buddhism or whatever to define marriage? No, you use the law. Why? Because the law is the one that unites the whole nation, that is filled with so many laws from different cultures and different religions. So the best dictionary is the law. That's the best dictionary. So now let's go back to that. So as I've said, marriage, because the definition of marriage is different, a lesbian can actually marry a straight person. Yes, she can. But because the marriage is the definition of marriage will just mean that if you conduct marriage before a church minister and you pronounce the vows, you'll be married. And yes, if the lesbian does marry the straight person, what it means, she is a bisexual, and the straight person is just straight. Yes, and likes because the lesbian is bisexual, she's attracted to also the opposite sex, and she can marry the straight person who is already attracted to the opposite sex. So yes, it is possible. So this all boils down to bisexuality being the main point for the mixed orientation marriages, in all the mixed orientation marriages, because even a pansexual can marry an asexual. An asexual can marry a transgender. You see, all of this can happen. So what this is portending is that the laws are yet to change. Even in the West, they haven't reached the end. They are now in the process of coming to terms to this reality that, oh my, what are we going to do with mixed orientation marriage? What are you going to do about there's the threesome marriage, like there's one again, you can marry a man and a woman, and you're a man and you're in agreement. You see, the law is keeping on, is going to follow up. What people need to know about law follows norms, it follows systems. The law, it's very uncommon for a law to be created when there is no norm. You see, the revolution, the rotation of the earth on its own axis around the sun portends a law. That's a law. But that law never came to being until the earth came to being. Once the earth came to being and started rotating around the sun, there was a law found. And when the law was found, people wrote it down and said, this is a law of planetary motion, that the earth rotates on its own axis and surrounds the sun, the solar system. That is what you call a law. So laws don't come, most laws don't come before something is already taking place. Because why should I make a law of something that doesn't exist? It's not there. So now this mixed orientation marriage is what they're going to do in the Western culture, because the Western culture is a very legal driven, written. They like writing their things down. So they are going to make laws again. They'll have to amend the laws to allow for such marriages to happen. So where they already have gay marriage, it won't be just gay marriage. It will be mixed orientation marriage. So for me, I can say in conclusion, yes, you can marry. You can marry whomever you want, because marriage has very many definitions. Some people define marriage as sex. Others define marriage as cohabitation. Others define marriage as, economic, to keep the money in the family. Others define marriage as love. Others define marriage as prestige. I want to show I'm so wealthy that I can marry thousands of people. That's what Solomon did. Solomon's marriages were for prestige and politics. He was trying to keep peace in the region. So he married many women from different nations. He would have married Jews only. Yes, he would have married Jews. But he didn't. He married women from different nations so as to make peace with them. It was a very clever way of avoiding tributary. He was rich, so the nations wanted to also enjoy the riches he had, and so they gave their daughters to him. And that's how it happened. So those are just political marriages. I mean, just because he married those women doesn't mean he even slept with them. Do we know? did he sleep with them? We don't know. Although I know the ancient history, when you read how marriage was done, you had to go and sleep with the bride. After the ceremony, you slept with the bride in the tent. And for the Jews, you used to sleep in the mother's tent. You sleep in her tent and you consummate the marriage. But that was not even Jewish. It was the Syrian culture, the Canaanite and Babylonian culture. So we don't know. Things have changed. I don't see that in Israel these days. Anyway, we just said this is our view of mixed orientation marriage. You can do it if you're gay. At the same time, I'm also pro the movement that you can be gay and single. You can be LGBTQ and single. You don't necessarily have to marry. Just like straight people don't have to marry. Just because you're straight doesn't mean you have to marry. Yes, and just because you're gay doesn't mean you have to marry. Yes, it's up to you. And we're going to talk about this in another video, about the cultural evolution and the cultural revolution that is happening across the world. There's there's a clash of ideologies, and that's what's happening now. So otherwise, my take: marry whomever you want, and you don't even have to marry. That's your choice. If you want to, do it. If you don't want to, don't do it. Okay, guys.